Good morning. It's great to be with you again in the Lord's Sabbath day. My name is Danny Israel from In Israel's Vineyard. Today I'm going to bring you a lesson. The title is The Day of the Lord. The Day of the Lord. A lot of people, sometimes even I in the past before I came into this truth, when I see all the carnage and all the terrible things happening here on earth, I always wish and say, man, I can't wait for the Lord to come back. But to wish for the Lord to come back, that means you have to be ready. Because if you wish for the Lord to come back and you're not ready, when He comes, He's coming with destruction, and so you will be destroyed. So to wish this kind of day, it's not a good thing to wish for, because it's going to be a terrible day when that time comes. So anyway, we're going to start this lesson off in Amos 5, verse 18. And it reads, "Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord." So you hear what it says. It says, "Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord." So he's saying, this is a terrible day. Don't wish for this, because you don't want to see what's going to happen when this day comes. So don't wish for this day. It says, "To what end is it for you?" Because, see, just like I said, it says, "To what end is it for you?" Because you don't know what's going to happen when He comes. You could end up in the lake of fire. You could be destroyed. You don't know what's going to happen when He comes. It says, "The day of the Lord is darkness and no light." So imagine that. A day of darkness, a day of no light. When you have a storm, or you have a hurricane, or you have something like that come up on the land, you see how dark and gloomy it gets, and everybody feels miserable because how dark and gloomy this day is, and the way it makes you feel. So here it says here, the day of the Lord is darkness and no light. Verse 19, it says, "As if a man did flee from a lion." And so as if a man flee from a lion, and a bear met him. So imagine you out there and you saw a lion, and you running away from this lion because this lion is out to to devour you, to eat you. And when you run from the lion, you end up in a bear, one of those big grizzly bear that stands 10 to 15 foot with those sharp claws. So you run from a lion and you end up in the claws of a bear. Or went into the house. So you escape. So imagine you escape the lion, and then you escape the bear, and you run into your house to hide. And in the house, and lean his hand on the wall. So you're like, "Whoa, man, I'm tired from running," and you put your hand on the wall, like, to hold yourself up because of how tired you are. And a serpent bit him. So imagine you escape the lion, the ferociousness of the lion, you escape the bear. A bear is very strong, it could rip you to shred. Then you go into the house and lean on the wall, and when you lean on the wall, there's a viper. And so you escape all the stuff, and then things. So it's saying here, the day of the Lord is going to be like that. There's going to be no escape. You can't hide. You can't go nowhere. You can't hide when that day comes. Nobody can escape it. Then 20, it says, "Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light?" So you're repeating verse 18. "And not light even dark, even very dark, and no brightness in it. So, man, you can't imagine how dark this day is going to be. Over in when the children came out, when they was in Egypt, and the famines were going on, and the different things that the Lord was causing to happen to Egypt during Pharaoh time. There's a scripture that says that it was so dark that you couldn't even see in front of your nose. That's how dark it was. And this day of the Lord going to be just as dark. Next, we're going to go over to Joel. Joel, it's going to be Joel chapter 1. Joel chapter 1 verse 15, and it reads, Alas for the day, right? It says, like again, repeating that, alas for the day mean, you're tired, you can't wait, you're weary, you're just tired of everything, and you just want that day to come. For the day of the Lord is at hand. So it's telling you here that the day of the Lord is close. It's right here. It's around the corner. And then it says, and as a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. So you see, that day is coming from, the Lord is the one who's going to bring that day. So, and he says it's a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. Next we're going to go over to Obadiah. Obadiah 1 verse 15. And it says, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathens. The day of the Lord is near upon all the heathens. The heathens is the one who worshiping all these other gods, who going contrary to the Bible, going contrary to the laws and the statutes and commandments of the Lord. Those the heathen he's talking about here. And it says, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. So he says the stuff that they've done is going to come right back on them. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. So the wickedness and all the destruction and all this, the different things that the heathen cause, he says, when this day come, it's going to come, all of that is coming right back on their heads. Next, we're going to go over to Job. Job chapter 20, verse 28. Job 20 and 28, and it reads, the increase of his house shall depart. So right now you have all the heathens and all the people that deceive and do all this stuff. Right now the house is rich. They have all the abundance of the earth, they have all the treasures, they have money, they have everything. So it says here, the increase of his house shall depart. So he said, when that day of the Lord come, none of that, those riches and all the stuff that they gather, is not going to help them. And the earth shall rise up against him. And the earth shall rise up against him. And his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath. So, when the Lord comes, he's saying here that all his riches and everything that he has and he owns and he store up, it's not going to help him because it says here it's going to flow away in the day of his wrath. Because during this time and the destruction and this darkness, what good is your money and your gold and all the stuff that you store up? What good is it going to do to you? Verse 29. And then it says, this is the portion of a wicked man from God. So the day of God. So it says here, this is the portion of the wicked man from God. This is what he's going to get. This is what the Lord's going to bring to him in that day. And the heritage appointed unto him by God. And so this is what God save up for him when that day of the Lord comes. So now I'm going to go over to verse 4 to 8. And it reads, knowest thou not this of old? And so it's saying here, know this is from the beginning, since man was placed upon the earth. So he says this is the portion that God have saved up for the wicked man since before man was placed on this earth, because God knew that man would be wicked when he placed them here on this earth. So he says that this is the portion that's been saved up for them from the beginning. Verse 5. That the triumphing of the wicked is short. So he's saying the triumphing of the wicked, because if you run a race or you have a competition, the one who wins is triumphant. So he says that with all the deceit and all the different things that they do, they triumph. Right now on earth, they got all the money and all the gold, and they got everything. And then it says here, and the joy of the hypocrite, but for a moment. So it says that all all the pleasures and all the different things that they have right now, he's saying it's just for a moment. Verse 6. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the cloud. So he's saying that these rich men and these men who deceit, right now they're above everybody. They said you heard the term the elite and the one percenters and the people who owns who has all the wealth. They're talking about them. They're triumphant. They over everybody. They got everything right now. And then verse says, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. So you hear what he say? He's going to be destroyed forever like his own poop. That's what he said, like his own dung. That's what he's going to be like when that time comes, like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? So right now, people like, you got Jay-Z, you got Beyonce, you got the Clintons, you got all these rich people, and then he says here, the people, all the poor people and the people who know how these rich people lived and how what they did, they're gonna ask themselves, where are they? What happened to them? They thought that was all big and mighty and everything, but no, where are they? And verse 8, he shall fly away as a dream. Most night, they say people dream every night, but most people don't remember. But the dream that you remember, it flies away quickly. You wake up and you dream something. Like, whoa, this was a vivid dream. It felt like I was right there. But soon it disappears. You forget it quickly. So he said that this is the same fate gonna come to these people, and shall not be found. So they're going to fly away and they're not going to be found. So you ain't going to see them anymore. He shall be chased away as a vision of the night. Vision of the night, that's your dream. Same thing. You dream something and it just disappears quick. You forget it quickly. Next, we're going to go over to Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24, we're going to pick it up at verse 21. And it reads, "And it shall come to pass in that day," the day of the Lord, "that the Lord shall punish the host of the high ones." Who are the high ones? Donald Trump, Jay-Z, Beyonce, all these people who have money, who live in, like you say, large. These are the hosts on high, that are on high, and the kings of the earth. You hear them say the kings in the building, King James, LeBron James. You hear all of them, the kings in the building. So the kings of the earth, because all these people have money and they feel that they're better than everybody else. They feel like kings. And so it says here, the kings of the earth upon the earth. Verse 22, "And they shall be gathered together." And so the Lord, when he comes, he going to gather all of them together. As prisoners are gathered in the pit. So it's just like how, you watching the news and you see how they gather the prisoners and they take them to jail. He said they're all going to be gathered like that. "And shall be shut up in the prison." They're going to be shut up in the prison. So this prison he's going to shut them up in. He's going to put them away. And after many days shall they be visited. So during this destruction, and so many people are going to die, and then this shall be, it says here, many days shall they be visited. And so when it's time for judgment and God to judge, that's when they're going to be visited. Next, we're going to go over to Zephaniah. Zephaniah 1, verse 14. Zephaniah 3 and verse 8. So this is what the Lord is saying, to people who wants his return, who wants him to come back now, and all these different things. He says here, verse 8, 3 and 8, "Therefore wait ye upon me." So the Lord said, have patience, get yourself right, do thus said the Lord. Stop going to church on Sunday. Go to church on the day that he says, which is the Sabbath day, Saturday. He says swine is unclean. Catfish and all these different things. So he says, wait for me. And when he says wait for me, he means to get yourself right. Because if you're not right when I come, this same destruction that I just read is gonna come upon you, just like it come upon these kings. And you don't have to have money. It says here, said the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. Until the day he rise up to the prey. The prey is those kings and these people who's not doing according to the Lord. For my determination is to gather the nation. So this appointed time he's going to gather the nation, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them my indignation. So he says here, in that day of the Lord, he's going to gather all the nations and he's going to pour his indignation. His indignation is his anger. that he have against these nations. Even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So he says they all gonna be consumed with the fire of his jealousy. Now we're gonna go over to verse 14. Zephaniah 1 verse 14, and it reads, the great day of the Lord is near. It is near. He's saying the great day, that day is very near. And haste it greatly. Haste it greatly. So haste it. Haste, when somebody said do it with haste, do it quick, get it done, do it fast. So he's saying here that, because if you notice, December was like, it felt like it was a week ago, and now half of the year is over. It's June. So as you can see, some people say, man, time is speeding up. It is speeding up, because you hear what he say here. He said it hasted greatly. He said it's near and hasted greatly. So that means the time is just flying. So get yourself right. And it says, even the voice of the day of the Lord, the mighty men shall cry there bitterly. So he says, this day of the Lord, these men, what they're going to do? They're going to cry bitterly. Because then they're going to say, whoa, man, I didn't know, but it's true. What they were saying about Jesus is true. They have him portrayed as he's black, as he's white. But if you look the Bible, it tells you that his foot is bronze, and it tells you all these different things. And his children, they are also black. So when this day comes, they all gonna be they're gonna cry bitterly, because the thing that the lies that they've been told, they're gonna see the truth, and they're gonna like, whoa, I can't believe, all right. And then verse 15, the day is a day of wrath. So he said it's a day of wrath. And what's wrath? Is his anger. He's angry for everything that has been done to his people. Wrath, the meaning of wrath is extreme anger. Extreme, not just anger, because sometimes you get angry and you feel so angry that sometimes you feel you could do something. But here is saying his wrath which is extreme anger. So this is over the edge. This is not just regular angry. He's over the edge. He's been pushed over the edge because of what the nation has done to his people. A day of trouble and distress. It's a day of trouble and distress. Distress, the word means to cause sorrow, misery. I don't know how much people remember that movie, Misery. I think it was The Silence of the Lamb, or it was Misery. What the lady, she took the 2x4 and she put it between the guy's foot, and she took a sledgehammer and she hit one end and just crushed this guy's ankle. So it says misery. So imagine what's going to happen, because the day of the Lord is going to be that. It says a day of wasteness and desolation. So the day of the Lord, that's the reason why he said don't wait. He said wait, don't wish for this day, because this day going to be a terrible day, and it's going to be a day. It's going to be a day of wasteness and desolation. And so waste and desolate it means that it's just total destruction. It's nothing going to be left when he's done. A day of darkness and gloominess. A day of clouds and thick darkness. It's not going to just be dark. It's going to be thick dark. I mean, can you imagine what thick darkness is 16. A day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. That's an example. Everybody know the Trump towers, right? So it says it's going to be against the high towers and the fenced cities. You know, all these, you know, the city. You know, sometimes you listen to the news and you hear people say, "Man, my neighborhood is a quiet neighborhood. You know, I can't believe this happened in my neighborhood," and all the different things. These fenced cities. These people have gated communities and all these different things. He said, when that day come, none of that. None of that fenced city and the towers gonna save them against the high towers. And 17, and I will bring distress upon men, that they shall walk like blind men. So with this misery and this suffering, they're gonna be suffering and all these things gonna be happening to them. So they're gonna be walking around like blind men because it's gonna be so thick and dark that you're not going to be able to see. So you're going to be stumbling around like drunk men. That they shall walk like blind men because they have sinned against the Lord. So you see what was going to make them walk around like blind men? Because they sin against the Lord. And their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as dung. So it's going to be poured out as dust, and the flesh gonna be like dung. It's gonna be like poop. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in that day. So all that gold and all that silver and all that money that they save up, he said, in that day, it's not gonna save them. Just like the scriptures say, what is it good to gain the whole world and lose your soul? So in that day, it's not going to be able to save them of the Lord's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them. So he says here, he's going to make a speedy riddance. You know, like when people say good riddance, you know what I mean when they say good riddance? You know, it's like, yeah, you just, to heck with you, just go. Good riddance. So he says it's going to be a speedy riddance. So he's going to get rid of all these wicked and people from off the face of the earth. He's going to get rid of them quickly that dwell in the land. So it's going to be a speedy riddance of these people in the land. Next, we're going to go over to Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. And it reads, "Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand." So he says here, to blow a trumpet in Zion. Zion is in Israel. He says, let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, because there's a lot of fear going to come upon the people in that day. And then verse 2, a day of darkness and of gloominess, like I read before over in Job, of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountain, a great people and a strong. There had not been ever like this. And so he said, when this day of the Lord come, it's going to be like a day not ever like this. Neither shall be any more after it. So it's saying none going to be like it before, and after it, there's none going to be like it again. Even to the years of many generations. And in a fire devoured before them, and behind them a flame burned. So everywhere they turn is going to be that flame, is going to be that fire. So there's going to be no escape. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. And so they're doing it, nothing going to escape. I'm going to go over in Joel 3 and 2, and it says, I will also gather all nations, and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. So this day of the Lord, when he comes, that's the reason why that's the reason why all this destruction and all this stuff going to happen, because of what they did to Israel. So he said in this the valley of Jehoshaphat is the same of Armageddon, in Armageddon, and it says that that there he's going to plead for his people. He's going to plead for his people, and for my heritage Israel. That's his people, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine. Just like when we came over here as slaves, for a bottle of wine, they sold our children, they have given a boy for a harlot, that they might drink, just to get drunk. They sold our children for wine, and they cast lots for my people, just like when we was on those blocks where they went up and they were saying this is a strong buck, and this is a healthy this and stuff. So they cast lots for us. Verse 4, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? So he's saying, all of you people who sold my people into slavery and take them against their will and all these different things. He's saying that will ye render me a recompense? He said, will you repay me for that? And if ye recompense me, and the Lord said, if you try to repay me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. So he says that repayment that you try to give me, he don't want that. You can't repay me for what you done to my people. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. So we was in Jerusalem, and now we far from our border. We all over the world. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and I will return your recompense upon your head. So he said he's going to gather us from all the place that they sold them, and he's going to repay them for what they done to us. And I will sell your sons and your daughters. So he says the same thing that you did to my people, I'm going to do to your people. So I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah. So now he says, so Jesus said here that how they sell his people into other hands of all these people. Now he's going to sell their sons and their daughter into our hands, into Judah, and they shall sell them for the Sebans to a people far off, for the Lord had spoken it. And verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. So the Lord saying in this in this this battle. He's saying, let they prepare for war. You know, he tell them, prepare, because I'm coming. Prepare for this war. We're going to go over to Jeremiah 46. Let me read something here over Jeremiah 46. Chapter 3. Joel 46. Joel 46. Jeremiah 46. So he just told them, prepare all your men, come to this battle. So over here in Jeremiah 46, he says, order ye the buckler and the shield, and draw near to the battle. So he's telling all these people who've done wrong to his people. He tell them, order the shield, get your gear ready, get your guns, get everything ready to come down to this battle. He says, verse 4, harness the horses and get up, ye horsemen, and stand forth with your helmets. So this reference into now, the army, how, they get their helmet, and they got the guns, and they got the tanks and all this stuff. So he's telling them, you get ready, bring all of this down to this battle, because I'm waiting for you. Furbish the spears. So he says, to sharpen your spear, if you have an arrow, sharpen it. So he tell them, get your stuff ready and come down to this war, and put on the brigandess. Verse 5, wherefore have I seen them dismayed and turn away back, and their mighty ones are beaten down. So he said, in this war, he said, when you come with your tanks and you come with things, because you're going to be beaten down, and are fled apace. So he said they're going to be running for their life in this battle. And look not back, for fear was around about, said the Lord. So after they get down for this war, and they see how fierce and how the Lord coming, they're going to try to turn around and run. Let not the swift flee away, nor the mighty men escape. So he says he don't care how fast the tank is, how quick, whatever they bring, they're not going to get away. They shall stumble and fall towards the north by the river Euphrates. So this is over there where the battle is going to be, in the battle of Jehoshaphat in the valley. And so he's saying they try to run away, they're going to fall towards the north by the river Euphrates. Who is this that cometh up as a flood, whose waters are moved as the rivers? And so he said this coming up like a flood. It's going to be so many of them that it's going to be like a flood. Just there's so many. The people, the army. And go down to verse 9. Come up, ye horses, and rage, ye chariots, and let the mighty men come forth. The Ethiopians, the Libyans that handle the shield, and the Lydians that handle and bend the bows. So he's saying that everybody have their because in the army you got snipers, you got the Navy SEALs, you got these guys who go underwater, you got all the different guys that who train to do certain things. So he's saying here, you bring all these different guys who have their specialty. Verse 10, for this is the day of the Lord of hosts, a day of vengeance. So you hear what the Lord say? This is a day of vengeance. Because the scripture says vengeance is the Lord's. So this is going to be the day of vengeance, that he may avenge him of his adversaries. So who's his adversaries? All these people who was against the Lord and his children Israel. And the sword shall devour, and it shall be saturate and made drunk with their blood, for the Lord God of hosts had a sacrifice in the north country by the river Euphrates. And then it says, go up into Galilee and take balm, O virgin, the daughter of Egypt. In vain shall thou use medicine. So he says, when these men getting killed and his vengeance is taken on them, they're gonna try to get medicine and trying to fix themselves, but it's not gonna work. For thou shalt not be cured. So he says they're gonna try medicine, they're gonna drink the morphine, they're gonna take up the shots of morphine pills, and they're gonna do all this, but it's not gonna work. Now, go back over to Joel, and it says here, proclaim ye, this is verse 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And that's when I went over, and this is what he's telling the mighty men to do. Then verse 10, it says, beat your plowshares into sword, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And so, like when you watch some of these movies, and these guys hyping up themselves, the Vikings and these different guys, and they're going against each other. And so it says, let the weak say I'm strong. So they give them the speech before they go off. You see these alien movies, and they go into fight against, and so what they do, they give them a pep talk to get them ready. So it says here, this says, let the weak say I'm strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. So here again he says, let them come down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Let them come to this war, because he's going to be ready. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And when he said judge, it's not sitting, okay, you committed this sin, you committed that sin. No, it's that sword is what they're going to get. He's going to be killing them. and many are going to die. And then he says here, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come. So he's saying it's going to be so many people who's going to die. The harvest is ripe. It's just like you have a tree that bears fruit or apples or whatever it is. When that season comes, the tree's full of apples. So it's and it's in that time to pick. So it's ripe. It's a lot of them that's going to come. And then it says, come, get you down, for the press is full. So the press is going to be this killing, and the sword was going to devour them. The fat overflows, so it's going to be so many that's going to die. So many people. For the wickedness is great. So now you have, they passed the law that man and man could marry, woman and woman could marry. You got so much murders, and you got all these different things that's happening around the earth. And so it's just so much wickedness. So there's going to be a lot of people. And then verse 14. Multitudes in the valley of decision. So this valley of decision, he says, is going to be multitude of men who's going to die in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. So the valley of decision is the valley where God can swipe and defeat and devour a lot of people in this valley. It says, and the sun and the moon shall be darkened. As I read earlier, that it's going to be dark and gloomy. And the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of the people and the strength of the children of Israel. And go down to verse 19, and it says, Egypt shall be a desolate, and Edom shall be a destroyed, desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. And so he says, for all these people and all the blood that they shed of God's people, that's why a lot of people are going to die down in this valley. We're going to go over to Revelation 19. Revelation 19. Revelation 19 and 11. And it reads, "And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he doeth judge and make war." So who is this? Who is this the heaven opened, and behold, a white horse? Who sat upon this white horse? That's Jesus. Verse 12. "His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew, but he himself." Verse 13. "And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God." So, this battle of Jehoshaphat, it says here, and his vesture was dipped in blood. And it's going to be so many death that the blood going to be up here on his vesture. And then 14, "And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses and clothed in fine linen, white and clean." And he and on the name written on it was King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And then 17, "And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying, To all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together upon the supper of the great God." You saw, after all these people get killed in the valley of Jehoshaphat, and the Lord come, the Lord's going to say, He going to call all the fowls of the air to the supper of the great God. So these fowls are going to be coming to us to the supper, and this is the supper. He says, 18, "That ye may eat," and he's telling these great birds. He's telling these fowl of the air, "That ye may eat the flesh of kings." So all these kings and all these people who thought they was high, who gonna be dead. He's gonna call these fowls to eat their flesh. So they're gonna eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And so during this battle, it's gonna be small and great. It's gonna be kings and great men who's gonna fall in this battle. 19, "And I saw the beast and the king of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse, and against his army." Drop down to verse 21, and then it says, "And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse." So after this battle, who didn't die? He said the remnant, whoever was left, was slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. So after this day of the Lord is going to be great and terrible, dark and gloomy. It's going to be kings, mighty men, and so forth, who's going to come down to this valley. He's going to call them down. He could tell them to sharpen the sword. Get the breastplate, get everything ready, and come down to this wall. Because when you come down to here, I'm going to judge, and to judge, and he says, I'm going to plead with all flesh, and it's not, "Oh, don't do that. Oh, why, stop sin." No, it's not that, because it's way past that. It's going to be killing. He's going to be devouring them with his sword. And so that's the end of the lesson. My name was Donnie Israel on the Lord's Sabbath day, and from the Israel's Vineyard.